1230 WBZT, the Palm Beaches talk station.
And we're talking about a lot of issues regarding the assessments that do come up because of foreclosure issue.
Right.
And matter of fact, Rhonda shared with me yesterday that I guess one organization who took your advice is capitalizing on 20 grand worth of rentals. Is that correct?
That was because of the foreclosures. We started taking units in 2006 and took so many, and it took so long for the banks to actually foreclose on the units that at one point they were making $20,000 a month in rent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Comes in handy. But I mean, I know associations that aren't fixing the roofs on their community centers because they have no money. The bank has all the units and they're not paying the monthly fees.
Well, really, what happened in the late 2000s is that a lot of people who had units that were in arrearages were told by their lawyers not to proceed because the bank will foreclose. Because in the late 90s, early 2000, it was a year or 2 years the banks would foreclose. But in March of 2006, there were about 4,000 bank foreclosures filed in a month. And at that point, I knew things weren't going to be moving. No. So I just said to my clients, you know what, just start taking the units, don't wait for the banks, and start renting them. Because that's all you can do. Everything was upside down at that point. You couldn't flip properties anymore.
Is it tougher for the associations to rent them because they don't have a clear time limit on how long the people can stay, or is there something worked out?
Well, right now that's a big problem. That's why I started doing receiverships, because you have no idea when the bank's going to foreclose. So you could spend all this money getting an attorney, foreclosing on the unit. If the unit owner just fights you just to delay, it'll create more money that's being charged to the unit. And then they disappear, the bank forecloses, and you don't get anything but 1%. So you're putting good money after bad in a foreclosure, potentially because you have no idea when the bank's going to foreclose.
Well, one question was asked of me to ask you. Because of investors buying up condos for renting, because let's face it, the rent is up by over 30% of our county alone. In one particular building, there's only really 2 condo owners individually. There's over 30 units. The rest is owned by a real estate firm that rents them out. And they're very lax in doing any maintenance. And the 2 owners are sitting there frustrated. And they said, is there anything that they can do? And they asked me to ask you that question. Can they do anything? They have from a leaky roof, and it's a nice place in Coral Springs, a leaky roof that caused mold in their apartment. And the grounds are not being maintained. Leaves are piling up. And because the head of the association, who owns the majority of the units, I guess they can do what they want? No,
the statute under 718 is the Florida statute that regulates condominiums. So assuming this place is a condominium, then there's the statute 718303 gives every unit owner the right to sue a board for failure to enforce their declarations, which is why it's sort of a sticky wicket for some boards, because they don't have the money to enforce, but if they don't enforce, they can get sued anyways. So, they're required to maintain. So the people who are asking you that question should go to a lawyer and sue under 718303 to enforce, and the statute provides for attorney's fees if they win.
Oh, wow. I will certainly let them know, and I know that they're going to be listening, so thank you. I know that they appreciate that. There's so many issues with homeowner associations, and being that when I first moved down here, Mike, 23 years ago, my late wife, we had a homeowner association in Illinois, and we never heard of those things. Down here, they're rampant. And not to say they're bad, but she actually nominated me. I went to the meeting just to check it out, and they wanted nominations for president. And she raised her hand, and she nominated me. And nobody else went against me, so guess what? I became president of the homeowner association. Oh my goodness, the calls I would get, they left their garbage out. I said, well, they're going out of town. Well, they left it out 2 days before. I said, what are they supposed to do, leave their stinking garbage in their house? But it's little things like that that they blow out of proportion.
Well, being a board member is a thankless job. It's a volunteer position, and it's a thankless job. And I teach classes on how to tell people how you diffuse the angry people, how do you get them involved. Like, if somebody's complaining, make them a part of a committee. Let them get involved, let them make the suggestions.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're part of the process.
Okay, smarty pants, you're in charge.
That's right. Believe me, I wanted to say that to some of these people. And it's amazing, especially they put a basketball hoop on top of a garage. Oh, that's going to take away from property values. And negotiated that fact that they had to roll out one that they could put in its place, so they were happy. The kids still had the basketball, but it got ridiculous. Oh, you got to find these people.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're neighbors.
Sometimes it's a lot more than just running a corporation and a business. You're neighbors with people, you live there, they can knock on your door. I mean, you know, there's a lot more to it than just running a board and running a business. And the smart ones do it very well. There's a lot of people out there that do great jobs for their associations.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that go to these classes that are smart for coming to the classes, because you're only going to get so much out of the statute by reading it in your declaration. I mean, talking to people like me who experience these things all the time helps you see the reality of how it works, not just the technicality of what the law says, but how does it really work? You know, even though you take a foreclosure unit, if you put money into it, you may lose it all. So what's the other alternative? You know, what are other alternatives? And people don't think about them all the time, and I can tell you definitely, lawyers don't tell their clients.
As long as we're talking about that, you should talk about how people can get in on your classes, because I'm sure there are people hearing this go, I want to learn more about this.
I just finished one for the Hollywood Beach Civic Association, and it was a great class. And I do classes all the time. If you contact my office, and I know, like you said, people are driving, so
yeah.
My name is Rhonda Hollander, so the website is Rhonda Hollander PA, which is Professional Association, so it's rhpalegal.com. Rhonda Hollander P. Professional Association Legal. I don't know how to say that faster or easier.
Well, you're Holland with an ER, so
that's
you're
right.
Hollander.
Yeah.
And
Help me, Rhonda. That's the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
I always say my name.
But in protecting our rights, and on a side note, probably about 5 or 6 times for that whole year, I was threatened that I was going to be sued and sue all the board members. Seems like everybody's sue happy these days.
Right.
But in all reality, nothing ever came out of that. It's just more anger. But there is something called selective enforcement that more and more associations are having to put up with. But we are a community, and if the person had cancer or things along those lines that got behind, is that considered selective enforcement because they had personal issues where the other people just lost their job, and that's how life is?
The board has the obligation legally to use their best business judgment in order to make their decisions. So, for instance, if I have a collection where somebody's behind and they're sick, and it doesn't mean that I can't work a deal with them to give them a payment plan or something that they can manage that still gets the association paid. Mm-hmm. Similarly, when you talk selective enforcement, you have to do your best business judgment. So maybe your business judgment is to go after a unit that's in bad shape, but not as bad, that's really bad, and you pick which ones you're going to do because you can't afford to do all of them at the same time.
Right.
That's part of it. Plus, if you have a prior board that never enforced, and you now have to you have to republish all your rules and regs before you can start enforcing again. So there's ways to deal with this, and really, as long as the association's using their best business judgment, the board is using their best business judgment, then the liability issue is sort of moot. I mean, you become personally liable as a board of director if you're committing fraud, you're stealing, there's embezzlement.
Right.
Like
we do hear about that. We hear about that. The treasurer, start writing themselves checks.
Right. And in those kind of situations, I mean, you're going to have those. DMO
that's when it comes with handcuffs, though, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But you got to prove everything like everything else, right?
Well, Rhonda, you've grown your practice, again, being a magistrate, being really a judge, and then you were the judge of the judges.
Part-time.
Part-time, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you grew your practice, you actually have your own buildings. And I did say buildings, Mike, it's like a campus there. Yeah, and sincerely, but what I like about it, when you call Rhonda, you get Rhonda. Seriously, Rhonda, and there's one other attorney as well that is in charge. But you are a full-service law firm, but focusing on these association issues. You protect them. And one thing I like about talking about you is exactly how you actually get paid. You don't nickel and dime them, You don't talk to them about the Miami Heat for 15 minutes and send them a bill. Other lawyers listening, not to be named.
I'm a big believer in catering to people's needs and not necessarily focusing on the money issue. In fact, most people can resolve a lot of their issues without having to hire a lawyer, without having to pay anybody anything. You can just depends on how you approach the topic. And I think that if people are reasonable and cool heads prevail and they're compassionate and understanding these people are still their neighbors, they can accomplish a lot that way. And then there's always those people that there's nothing you can do. You gotta file suit, you gotta do what you gotta do. You got those people that disappears, you get receiverships. I mean, you just have to know what the solution is or what, what the catering to the issue is.
Now, on your website, you do have a list of the different classes, and these classes are free, am I correct?
Yeah.
And
what I tell people is if you want a class in your association and you have a bunch of associations around you and you can provide a facility with parking, I'll come and I'll do the class because I think it really is so important for people to understand the reality of what they're dealing with. Not just calling a lawyer, getting a legal opinion, and then this is what the law says. This is what's really going to happen if you do this. This is how it's going to work if you go down this road.
Let me guess, you talk for an hour and then probably have 3 hours answering questions.
Yeah.
The last time I took about 20 minutes, and then I wait after class if people have questions for me to talk and stuff like that. But most people in these classes, they're part of a board.
Right.
And a smart board doesn't act as one. A smart board acts as a group. So then they'll tell me, look, I want you to come to my board meeting and I want you to look at what we've got going and can you tell us what the status of these things are and, are we on the right track, are we not, do you have any other alternatives? And a lot of times I'll do that too, so that people can get a second opinion and feel more comfortable about what they're doing or have someone just talk to them like a human being and not with all the lawyer legalese and all that sort of stuff.
I like it. Very good.
Absolutely. And Rhonda, your practice is located in Dania Beach. It's right off of Federal Highway. It's easy to get to. And seriously, Mike, she has buildings there. That's one building in particular. That's where your practice is located, and it's very easy to get to. It really is.
I love where I am because we're just beside the airport. We're south of the airport, but we're not. We don't hear anything for the airport.
Right.
So I do mediations as well, so people fly in and out. It's really easy. I just call myself the cell phone lot, because we're close enough.
Now, the educational seminars that you do, is there one in particular coming up soon? Or should they just go to your website?
Yeah, the website's the best place to go because we're always having classes all the time. I'm doing sometimes I do them private, sometimes I do them for public. But yeah, there's constantly new classes coming online. That's why rhpalegal.com.
That's easy. I like that. rhpalegal.com. That's easy to remember. And of course, you just Google Rhonda Hollander, but you can give her a call at 954-523-3888. And gosh, it just goes by too quick. There's so much more information.
Oh yeah, I could spend hours talking about each topic.
I'm telling you.
Come back. And what you do is so important because, like you said, the world has changed so much since 2006. Good for you.
And give her a call for free seminars, and she's not kidding. Her hand is not out. It's her gas, her time, and her expertise. And again, her practice focuses on this, but she is a full-fledged law firm for a host of issues. You never know what happens. You may meet her.
But a case of good wine wouldn't matter.
That is true. Rhonda Hollander from the law offices of Rhonda Hollander, PA. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate it.